Hello and welcome. We are here to analyze the first day of the draft, give you a quicker summary than our 4-hour stream. So if you missed that one, or just want a quicker version when we give grades and we talk about how this player fits the plan, this is the place to be. Road to Super Bowl, kind of mid-season in terms of Road to Super Bowl. We are kind of on the edge between season 1 and season 2 with the draft. And with no further ado, let's just start. So Caleb Williams, A+. I'm gonna knock one grade, 1+ from this, because essentially I think it's A++, but 1+ is going to get down because you've messed up my entertainment value. I would really like to for them to still have Justin Fields on the team and to have a possibility of trading down that pick, because I think that could have been really exciting, really a lot of fun. But essentially you get the plus up because you actually were able to pick yourself up in this position. Great job by the management. Last year trade, you fleeced Panthers even before how the trade fell off, and right now it's just point robbery. Caleb Williams, slam dunk pick, best guy on the board, best QB, best potential. Nothing really. You don't hear me say anything like interesting about him that you wouldn't hear about him before. One thing that I'm going to mention that does not get mentioned that much often is one slight negative that might be out there for Caleb Williams is I'm not sure about longevity of Matt Eberflus. I feel if Chicago missed the playoffs and if the defense is not at least top 12 defense in the league, which you are paying head coach that is supposed to be defensive guru in a way. You let him pick Jermaine Edmonds, you traded for Montez Sweat, you just paid Jalen Johnson a huge chunk of money. The defense needs to be humming under defensive-minded head coach, right? If they won't make the playoffs, I think Matt Eberflus is gone. In that case, we kind of seen in the past what instability as for head coaches could do for young QBs in terms of bad result. On the other hand, if that would happen, I imagine that every offensive coordinator in the world would be like, I want this job because I have Caleb Williams here too. I have Romeo Dunze, they selected him later, and I have DJ Moore. Not to mention Cole Kmet, not to mention interesting young tackles. Like, it's a freaking dream job from offensive-minded head coach, I think. Slight note, you probably don't get Ben Johnson because I just don't see him saying twice no to a head coaching job just for him to go to the rivals, right? So for Chicago, slam dunk pick, love it, A+. And let's move to Jayden Daniels. I don't like this pick. I'm gonna be frank. I feel Drake May is a better prospect than Jayden Daniels is. So from the perspective of Road to Super Bowl, I will give this pick a C grade. I feel like he just does not give you that much of an upside that Drake May does, and if you want to win a Super Bowl, I would go with higher upside player in Drake May. Though here I will make slight adjustment of that grade, because for the purpose of Commanders franchise, when you have new ownership, you have new head coach, new offensive coordinator, you need to give this team hope. You need to give the fans the hope. You need to show them that things are going to get better. And essentially, in that sense, what it means is you are planning to start whoever you would pick as your QB. You want him to start this season. And for that, I believe Jayden Daniels is a better guy than Drake May. So from the perspective of the franchise, I kind of get it more because I think he's going to give you a lot of highlights, a lot of positivity, probably better results that you would get with Drake May right now. But in terms of road to Super Bowl and really trying to optimize winning actually a Super Bowl, I think Jayden Daniels is a worse pick. So overall, I will give it a B grade. In terms of just this podcast, of this show, this is a C in my head. Drake May, number 3 to the Patriots. A+. I I cannot go any other way. I think he, I've already talked about this. I just feel like he's a better prospect than Jane Daniels, and I think he enters special position for him because that offense is shit. You don't have playmakers, but he won't have to suffer the consequences because you signed Jacoby Brissett for 1 year, kind of to suck it up. If that was a plan, I would be like, maybe Mac Jones could have sucked it up, but I have no problem with Jacoby Brissett. I think he is a starting level QB in the NFL, and if by his performance in the camp, Drake May is a starter week 1, that would to me speak really a lot of volumes about Drake May and his quality, because I don't think Patriots are going to push May on the field. I think they have a decent starter in Jacoby Brissett. So if May starts week 1 in the circumstances, I would expect fireworks from him. Though with that offense, it's really going to be hard to predict him to be successful. But I feel like we will see Patriots draft wide receiver quite early in the second round and hopefully try to build this offense for Drake May for 2025. Then we go to Marvin Harrison. I just didn't get any of the talks that Marvin Harrison is not number 1 wide receiver on the board. The pairing in Arizona absolutely makes sense. I think he is happy. I don't understand the hate on Kyler Murray. I feel like he is definitely top half QB. Is he top 10? Probably on the edge. With Marvin Harrison, I kind of hate it as a Seahawks fan, and at the same time I kind of love it because seeing like Witherspoon versus Harrison matchups twice a year, that should be really a lot of fun. So Marvin Harrison, A+ to me, really nice pick for them. Joe Alt for the Chargers. I cannot blame you. You took the best offensive lineman off the board. I don't think it was close. Only question I had is, can he move and switch and play right tackle? It seems like I've studied it a bit more. I think it should work. And the only problem for me with this pick is you had Trey Pipkins, who is a decent caliber starter. So right now you had much bigger holes like a wide receiver, and Malik Neighbors was still on the board. Pair Malik Neighbors with Justin Herbert for years to come. But at the same note, protecting Justin Herbert and being really dominating line of scrimmage, which is going to be what Harbaugh wants, I cannot dislike this draft. I'm not going to give it A+. I feel like protecting your best asset is great, but I would say giving him a weapon at this point would be a better choice to make. I might add a slight plus that they did not pick JC Latham, who was connected to them a lot, and I just would be really slamming that pick if it were to happen. If they would pick JC Latham over Joe Alt, it just never made sense to me. So now we go to the Giants and Malik Neighbors. A lot of people texted me, or a lot of mock drafts had Giants picking a QB. I'm like, no. If they will do, I will bash that pick, unless it's Drake May, who would fall to them. I mean, Brian Daboll, his ass is on the line. The same with general manager for the Giants. Why in the hell would they pick a guy that most likely would sit behind Daniel Jones for year 1? Because you are not getting rid of Daniel Jones' contract. You are not saving money this season. You can do that after this one. But your job is on the line. Like, why would you do that? With like super talents on the board in Malik Neighbors, I feel he's clearly best wide receiver that Giants have like since OBJ, maybe even right now. Like, he is that good, and I feel like that offense. Actually, like when you look at Giants for 2024 compare them to 2022, last time they made the playoffs when Daniel Jones did not get hurt, I think this team is better than they were in 2022. I think this offense can win some games with Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors. And your D-line is freaking scary. Like Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Dexter Lawrence, that's a scary thought for any single offensive line. So A+ in my head, definitely like this pick. I was never sold on the idea that they would draft a QB. It just did not make sense to me. First, if Daniel Jones gets injured, if he sucks, you cut him post this season. There are some dead money still attached, but not as much as it would be this season, proportionally even. And you still have good pick next season. If you are good, you can go and try to play from that point, or you will eventually still cut Daniel Jones and try to reset the QB, and you have Malik Neighbors as his best friend pretty much since day one. So A+ to me. Now we go to the first pick I genuinely am concerned about. JC Latham to the Titans. Titans were connected with drafting an offensive lineman. Joey Alt was there in, I would say, like 60-70% of mock drafts for them. And it just, to me, kind of feels like, yeah, we want offensive lineman. Oh, God, we cannot get Joe Alt. So let's still draft an offensive lineman. And I'm like, JC Latham? Really? He's like 4th best tackle, I think, in this draft class. He is most raw. He is a project in my head. I think if you want the starter right now, Troy Fatanu is a better option. Tuas Fanga is a better option. JC Latham just feels like he's gonna get there eventually. I do trust that with the coaching they have, he could be a special O-lineman. But in a year, when you try to figure out what you have in Will Levis, when you try to put that O-line together to protect him, unlike they did last year, I just don't feel like JC Latham actually is going to be starter, and if he is, I just don't see him perform very well. So to me, it kind of doesn't match what I want to do, what I would want to do as a Titans GM with this pick. So, and also, I honestly think there were better options on the board. Maybe not with as much as an upside though. I think that's even questionable. Yeah, really not my favorite pick. I will grade it C-. I don't see it as a perspective from overall or even road to Super Bowl. Yeah, C- to me. Then we go to Michael Penix. And if you have seen my reaction like during the draft night, I absolutely hate this pick. I absolutely freaking hate this pick. I have not slept over it. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Really, it doesn't. If you watch the Falcons episode, what I was telling is I essentially feel like Kirk Cousins' contract is 2 years deal, right? I feel like they are quite honestly counting with the possibility of cutting him post 2025, having like about 25 million, I think, in that cap money, but not necessarily that would stop them because it's not Russell Wilson's numbers, etc. But like I said, that's why, if that's the case, if they really view this as a 2-year window when we try to win the division and maybe we push, it's like you could have said, Russell Wilson, we want to for 1 year. We will take like 4 to 5 great players for 1-year options, guys like Jadeveon Clowney, guys that just want to get paid for 1 year, that are kind of the journeyman veterans, and we will make the push right now. And then either we resign you towards a long-term deal if somehow you are back to your almost MVP years and we figure this one out, or we have a successor plan either with drafting next season, or we could actually draft a guy this year. So if Russell Wilson on 1-year deal was in Atlanta, Michael Penix I would still prefer JJ McCarthy over him, but at least this pick would be in like B to B plus, because I would absolutely see the plan. Russell Wilson, 1 year. We know you are a rental. If you somehow go berserk, we win Super Bowl because of you, we will figure it out from there. If not, we have a successor. We sign a bunch of young bunch of guys for 1 year, so we are not cap strapped for next years, and we are going with our successive plan. Maybe we are slightly worse for what that would do is we would be worse for 25 than we will be with Kirk Cousins, right? In that case, you could always kind of tag Russell Wilson and try to make him play 1 year, 50 million. I don't see a universe in which if he plays well and he's worth the money, he doesn't take that deal, right? So could essentially replace that, or it could be okay, we are slightly over, but we are saving 50 million with our QB. We are giving a shot to our young guy who was there for 1 year to sit with this offense, with veteran QB in front of him, just to learn how to play in NFL. Now we set him out there. He has a bunch of still young playmakers around him, and we feel like this is the best for us moving forward. He still gave us really good shot in 24, and now let's think about the future. So if that's the case, I would love it, but I'll not love it. I would still pick JJ McCarthy or Penix, but I would not hate it. But as of right now, first, you pissed off Kirk Cousins. Like, if I talk about this is more like a 2 year rather than 4 year, it's not necessarily something that I believe Kirk Cousins and his agents and people around him like trust this to be. I feel like he is in for 4 years. So this pick, from my understanding, he was absolutely shocked about this one. They didn't talk about this. So you sign a guy to 100 million guaranteed, to 4 years, 180 million overall. And you don't even tell him who you are picking, and you are picking essentially his successor with your number 8 pick that should have been either a special weapon for you or someone to fix your defense. So you pissed off your fans, you pissed off your QB, and it just doesn't make sense. I cannot give it anything but F. I really don't freaking get it. I thought the landscape of the division was pretty clear. I thought Atlanta would go out and get a player that will solidify them as the best team in the division because of Kirk Cousins, because of the bunch of playmakers. Whereas we would take a great player for the offense with Romeo Odunze on the board, most likely, or even Brock Bowers, Like whoever, man. Like whoever. Then you take a guy that most likely won't see a field with 2 years, for 2 years. Like, if your window is 2 years, why are you picking a guy who is not going to see a field in that 2 years? It just baffles me. I was listening to a lot of people talking about this. Some of them actually has much brighter opinion, like some, throwing Jordan Love into the mix, that, you can see how it can be successful. Well, really? Really? Do we call this a success, right? Do we call it a success? Because Jordan Love, for Packers, nobody knew what they were getting. For half of the year, we thought, this is not working. Right now, it looks amazing, but you missed on the window when you don't have to pay him, which is essentially like part of it is going to happen with Michael Penix. You don't know if it's going to happen, and Jordan Love was not an 8th pick of the draft. He was like 26th, so that was not as a premium of pick, and essentially given how great this draft is, like it's like around later type of pick in a sense in terms of value. So like I understand that you're trying to make sense of this, but really cannot. Like I don't get it. I feel like if you are Falcons management, you just put yourself into really dangerous situation, because if the defense sucks and you did not address it with like Dallas Turner here, the hate. And it's going to translate to Michael Penix. So he might be ready to play in the NFL in 2 years, but he could be so as a guy because of whom we have not won division, we have not won Super Bowl, which is the ultimate goal, because we just have a defense that sucks and we did not address it because of you, and you are not playing. So really, this just makes no sense whatsoever in my eyes. It's just a wrong pick. Like, I don't know, man. I really don't know. Let's move to positive conversation. Romeo Odunze, I mean, Chicago Bears becomes clear winner in terms of first round. Like having Romeo Odunze falling to them was not a certainty for sure. Like it could have been Chargers picking Mike Neighbors, then Romeo Odunze would most likely go to the Giants. It could have been Falcons. So I feel like the fact that you can just take him with number 9 pick, you didn't have to sacrifice anything to get him. Maybe what could be like slight knock, maybe if Vikings are trying to move, let's try to wheel and deal with them, go to the 11th pick, because I don't think Vikings would pick Romeo Odunze. They could have get something extra for him, but that's just nitpicking. It's Vikings and Bears, so it's always going to be harder in that sense. Really no problem with this pick. I will give it A+. I spoke about this on the stream. With Odunze, you getting another weapon for Caleb. Absolutely solidify this for him. If Keenan Allen goes down, you are not missing a beat. You have long-term plan with this guy. They will grow together. Really, really like it. One, because Chicago is not going to pick like for the third time in the first round. My one knock on them is I thought what they would really like put this into slam dunk category for me is if they would say, man, we have one problem for that offense. That's inside of that O-line. Graham Barton is falling. I mean, you guys know me. I was mocking Graham Barton to several teams before essentially Tampa just stole him, in my opinion. If they would sacrifice like next year first, possibly next year third, I think they could have made it, whether it's with the Packers 25, with the Cowboys. I think there was a chance to try and go for Graham Barton around that 24, 25, 26 pick and really just steal this offense, say this is our investment in the offense is just pretty much done for next 2 years. Let those guys grow together. Let's be great. If Tevin Jenkins stays healthy, we'll pay him, and that's the only thing. Might keep Keenan Allen if he goes for like veteran type of deal rather than like top money wide receiver, so like 10 to 15 millions. That would just make it absolutely great for Caleb. As of right now, he's probably gonna get a body in there with like later round picks, but that would just make it absolutely stunning. Still, Romeo Odunze A+. Chicago Bears are the first clear winners, I think, in terms of this draft. The second winners just come behind them, and it's Vikings. The way the board played for the Vikings, it's just absolutely stunning. Like you got everybody knows you want to draft a QB. Everybody knows that you are kind of prepared to trade up, and then you actually don't have to. And JJ McCarthy just falls in your lap. Okay, you made one move to to change picks with Jets, which essentially cost you like something, but really not much. And that's the haul you get for JJ McCarthy. A+, and I'm really excited for what JJ McCarthy can do with that offense. And Kevin O'Connor, like, really, I was not a huge Vikings fan, and like I will never be a fan of Vikings. Like I'm a Seahawks for life. But if there is a team I am becoming quite intrigued, it's Vikings. Just the way they handle this draft, I'm really a huge fan of Kevin O'Connell. They've become much more interesting team even post this draft, and I feel like JJ McCarthy, for them really not having to sacrifice almost anything, clear winners. Then Olu Fashanu to the Jets, and I don't like this pick for one single reason. That one single reason is you have, I believe, much more need for an interior offensive lineman. There were some guys who had Graham Barton even right now that could have solidified it. or Troy Fatanu is probably like much. Like I would go with Troy Fatanu here, or like even trade down, just get more picks. But why I would pick Fatanu over Fashanu, right? Like I feel like your need is interior. It's not tackles. On tackles, Moses and Smith, a huge question mark in terms of injuries, but you are not in a position that you can make, in a sense, what is luxury picks in terms of this guy is one we will put in if the guy gets hurt. I don't think you are in that spot. You are going for this season. You essentially picked injury prone guys that you know it can happen, it can go down. And the fact that you made insurances on them is like good long term, but for your success this year, it just feels like you have not covered what you should have. That's interior. And I feel like Troy Fatanu should have been the pick for them. But in terms of future, in terms of actual quality, like I have nothing to say about Fashanu. I feel like he can definitely go and compete with Tyron Smith, compete with Morgan Moses. I don't see any universe in which he's better than them year one. But if they injure, which is something you not looking forward to, but you expect, then he might take their job and just never look back. So in that case, I do get it. For the future of the franchise, it's good. But given the fact that you are trying to win right now, I don't think you should have been making an insurance pick. From that, I just cannot give it anything more than like a B to B minus. I do understand it's insurance for a very risky policy with Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith, but still, I don't think you have the luxury to do this. We go for number 12 pick. It's Bo Nix to the Broncos. I will give this B minus as well. It's not necessary that I hate the pairing of Bo Nix and Sean Payton. It's not necessary that he cannot succeed in the NFL, but you always reach for QB. I understand that. But he enters really bad situation. I don't think you are winning anything for next 2 years. So in that case, if you could have gotten more developmental QB, I would be more happy for you. So even like if JJ is up there, and I feel like Vikings were right to be worried that maybe Broncos would jump them and take JJ McCarthy. So I do like that Jets kind of took an advantage of that and strong arm Vikings into trading with them. But Broncos just feel like you have so many needs that either you should have traded down because you don't have many picks, or you should just try to cover those picks and figure out the QB in upcoming years, because you are essentially, I think, wasting 2 years of Bo Nix rookie deal because of that cap hit you have on Russell Wilson. I cannot see him being successful in these 2 years because your cap options are limited, and I really don't think you should stretch the cap into the future to try to have options right now. I get you are trying to secure your future. It's a QB. But yeah, to me, something is just not right about this pick for all the reasons I said. So B to B minus, I don't hate it, but I'm not the biggest fan, and neither were like two Broncos fans I've spoken with. Brock Bowers to the Raiders, I will give it this an A. I cannot do an A plus because it's not like necessarily this was the biggest need for them. They have Michael Mayer. I don't think this is necessarily even the best fit, but he is a great player. He was falling down. I think number 13 for him is slight steal. I think he is a top 10 player in this draft. And given who was on the board, I would expect you to draft a cornerback here, which cornerbacks were really, really an interesting debate in this year's draft, because the position that is being premium, is being premiumly paid, like fall to first cornerback was on the board like 22nd. That's really crazy. So I feel like cornerback was bigger need, and not necessarily I would say that Quinyon Mitchell is like a worse player than Brock Bowers in terms of when I would have them. I think they were both in my top 10 of a player. So in terms of I'm not necessarily picking like the best available option because I feel like Quinyon is kind of on the same level and he would fit a bigger need. But from the perspective that if you start Aiden O'Connell, you want to know what you have. Brock Bowers definitely is going to help that. If you believe Gardner Minshew could actually be quite a nice QB for NFL, I think he showed that he is going to give you quite a nice floor. Maybe not the upside, or most likely not the upside, but quite a nice floor. And you are kind of trying to maybe actually win something right now. You are smelling weakness with the Broncos. You don't feel like Chargers are necessarily going to be great this season. And obviously Chiefs are Chiefs, but what if Mahomes gets injured? So, alright, I am not super worried. It's also like, in terms of division, you are not necessarily, with cornerbacks, is there like any wide receiver you are scared of in this division? Like, is Rashee Rice the best wide receiver? We actually don't know if he's going to play because of the off-field stuff. So, because of that, maybe because of the division, the cornerback is not as much of a need because you don't necessarily have like superstar wide receivers playing against you in the division. But still, Quinyon Mitchell would be an A+, Brock Bowers is an A. Not a huge deal. Let's move. Talia Sefuaga to the Saints. I mean, Saints to me are always going to be a bit of an enigma because of the stuff they do with their salary cap. This feels like actually a reasonable choice. They might be done on Trevor Penning. Their really screwed up draft 2 years ago. Like, if you want to know about how much, let's just draft. So what they essentially, like, they essentially ended up paying like super premium as well as actually really missing on Trevor Penning so far. I cannot find it as quickly as I would want to, so we will not stack on this. So this feels like a good option. He was still one of the better tackles on the board. With Ryan Ramczyk getting older, injury prone, Trevor Penning really not being a hit, I do understand why you invest in this. Feels like a reasonable choice. But yeah, when it's about Saints, what I was saying is they always feel like they are in win now mode. And when you see their car 12 millions this year, cap hit, and 51 next season, it's I would not say that Talia Sefuaga actually like gives you the best like EV plus decision for this season. That's where, again, I would say Joey Fatanu would be a better choice. It could also have been Byron Murphy actually giving you a better choice for that one. So given that, that's where my criticism comes, because it really feels like, again, this is their window. This is the time that their car has 12 million cap hit, so you are trying to win, though you won't, but you are trying to. And especially after you see like Falcons picking Michael Penix, you are like, let's win now. Let's not think about the future. We can actually make it happen. We can justify what we do with our finances. And then it seems like you go with a reasonable option. I would not be surprised if Fuaga just puts Trevor Penning eternally on the bench and they just are done with Trevor Penning. That's where the win now kind of still can be applied. So that's why this pick is only a B to me. It's nothing worse than that. But yeah, not the biggest of fans. Then we go and talk about my Seahawks picking. No, oh, I'm sorry. I am too excited about my Seahawks. Colts picking Laiatu Latu for as a first defensive player of the board. The history has been rewritten. Nobody, not a single draft has needed to wait this long for first defensive player. It was actually twice as long as the previous record, so really crazy one. This pick was, I think, like I was talking about, possibility. I will give it an A, and I will just knock the plus off the board because, again, kind of my entertainment value with Troy Fatanu here would be really nasty. Because imagine that O-line, just put another potentially incredibly strong piece in that O-line on actually a position of need, like that second guard spot could be something you look forward to improve in the future. And you just watch Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor behind this O-line. I would really want to see that. I understand that you are trying to be more wholesome team, which from that I think Laiatu gives you that. So absolutely like it. Just me as a fan really stepping and cannot allow myself to give it an A+ because I just really wanted to see this one. But really great pick for the Colts. Now Byron Murphy for the Seahawks. I would probably prefer Dallas Turner, but either of these guys I feel like are absolute steals with the 16th pick. He is going to solidify us against run. We maybe will be able to stop the run occasionally, eventually this year, after several years when we just couldn't. And when Mike McDonald says both of these guys are on the board, I want Byron Murphy. Yep, just give him that guy. What is it to say? Like with Dallas Turner, what? I feel like he is like slightly better. He was slightly higher on my board, so that's where I was like, I see both of these guys as a need, but I understand that Byron Murphy is probably a bigger need for our defensive line. So really no problem with this pick. I like it. I really love it. No, not like it. I really love it. I think it's an A+. I don't think even the last tournament would be anything more than an A+. Really stunned. The board have fallen quite nicely for us. We got a guy that I don't think we expect to get without trading up. So thank you, really thank you, Atlanta Falcons, because he might not have been on the board if Falcons made better decision. Now comes Vikings, who traded up to get Dallas Turner. They just, to me, they have just become the winners, one of the under winners of this first round. Really great pick. To me, A+, fills the hole. They didn't have to pay super premium to draft for him. Still, in my opinion, I had him as my top 10 guy on the board. What is there to say? You are not actually worried about missing or losing Daniel Hunter at this point because you got Jonathan Greenard and Andrew Van Ginkel, and now you get Dallas Turner. Like, your edge is even better than it was last year. So that defense actually could be somewhat pain in the ass for some of the teams. They are nowhere near to be like the top defense or anything like that, but they could be better than people think. And Dallas Turner, I feel like, is going to be a big part of that. Then the Bengals with Marius Mims. I was not a huge fan of this one, if I remember correctly, for the steal, for the stream. I feel like not necessarily you have tackle issues. Again, to me, Joy Fatanu feels bigger need for you. He is comparable in terms of quality of a player, so I do understand that he's kind of in the mold of your tackles that you already have, and he is a good successor to them. And Bengals don't usually pick for right now. I get it. Maybe this could be. No, it's much more about strategy of the Bengals. They are much more picking guys that they will count on year 2, year 3, rather than year 1. If it was any other team, I would say this might be an indicator that they will give up for trades for Trey Hendrickson or T. Higgins, because this to me feels like we are not necessarily optimizing this year, because I don't see Marius Mims actually playing this year much of the football. So to me, I will give it an A-. In terms of he's not a reach, he's a good player, he's definitely a successor plan, and even in terms of like road to Super Bowl, having a successor plan for your tackles, will develop him behind similar mode of an O-line man. No issue protecting Joe Burrow, really no issue. Okay, I'll switch to an A. No, I will stay with A-. I feel like Troy Fatanu does that the same. He's protecting your best asset, but he is able to play right now. Just feel like, given the uncertainty, given the fact that Joe Burrow this year has 29 million cap hit, next year it's 46, Jamar Chase is 10, next year it's 22, it feels like maybe you should have more predators this season than the next one. But nothing worse than A- you will ever hear on me. This pick is not an issue in my opinion. Jared Verse for the Rams, number 19 pick. What is there to say? I don't super love it, but you need an improvement in that D-line. He is not a reach. I don't think he is like a certified steal. That's why or like certified really great player. That's where my pluses came to be. But really good pick, fills the position of need. Not really that much to say. Like, it just makes sense for both parties. He's gonna be a starter year 1. I do not doubt it. Really good. Then Troy Fatanu for the Steelers. Him and Graham Barton were my guys that I was like, yeah, somebody you should have picked these guys. Troy Fatanu, A+. I think he's a steal. I think he really nicely feels the need for the Steelers. I think he should have been off the board for, I think, like even 9 picks right now. So that's why I just cannot say he is not a steal, because I really feel like he should have been on the board quite earlier than this one. What is there to say? Like, I really struggle to find words. He's kind of like in a way, like nasty guy. He feels like an offensive lineman for the Steelers. He could play a center even. So that's where like they have James Daniels and Isaac Seumalo and Nate Herbig as their guard. So he might even slide for that one. I really feel like one of the better picks for the draft, and not having to trade up to get this guy. I don't think Pittsburgh expected that he is going to be up there. I actually feel like they were really quick to select him. Chubb Robinson for the Dolphins. I don't like this one. I really don't like Chubb Robinson. I think he is a bit of a reach. I felt like he is much more borderline first round, second round type of pick, not necessarily first round for sure. And for Miami, I just, again, don't really get it. You have last year of Tua, rookie deal, and you are picking a guy that is gonna be your number 3 edge rusher behind Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. I mean, okay, both are coming from back injury, so you are kind of solidified that you will have a really good pass rush from day one. But given how many freaking needs you have post this offseason, when you have lost Christian Wilkins, when you have lost Robert Hunt, when you still have not re-signed Connor Williams, and you probably will lose him as well. Really? And what this actually like could mean is, in my eyes, this actually tells me more about the future of the Dolphins, because they are becoming much more of a defensive-minded team. Like their secondary is really good. They solidified their D-line with this pick. They did not address the huge issues on the O-line. They have not signed Tua for a long-term deal. I would not be surprised if they are like, we tried to go with speed approach, with really offensive guru in Mike McDaniels, and it's just have not yielded results we wanted. Tua does not seem like our guy for the future, because he just cannot deliver in the primary moments. He has injury concerns. So maybe is Miami trying to like go more defensive going forward? Kind of like, we just count that Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle is enough for pretty much anyone for in terms of QB to just give them the ball, and they will deliver with Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane for the future. Like, you have a lot of dynamism. To me, this one screams, we are not necessarily sold on Tua. That's why we are not like super trying to protect him. And we actually want to have other areas of the game to win, and that other area is our defense. So is this a bit of a crazy theory? Maybe, but why else would you just not draft either Graham Barton or even Jordan Morgan at this point, or Tyler Guyton, like anyone from the offensive line, just to protect Tua, where you just have Terron Armstead and hope. Like, you have a guy that has injury concerns, you have not re-signed him yet, and you are not drafting premium to protect him. That's a tell. In my world, that's a tell of how they feel about this situation. Then Quinion Mitchell to the Eagles. I mean, it happened again. Why are we doing this league? How do you give Howie Roseman another just like absolute freaking steal on a golden platform? I mean, A++. I cannot say anything else. This is a top 10 player, and on a premium freaking position you absolutely need in terms of your division. Giants just pick Mike Neighbors. Commanders have Scary Terry, and Dallas obviously have CeeDee Lamb. So you have a guy that can cover them. And you got him with 22nd pick. You didn't have to draft up to get this guy. Just ridiculous. Philadelphia obviously instantly becomes winners of the first round. I mean, good job for staying put and just, I will take this guy with 22nd pick. We need a cornerback. He is the best one in the draft. Let's just take him. Probably should have been picked much higher, but we will get him. Like nothing against Philly, but this is just crazy. Absolutely ridiculous steal. A++ in my world. Then Jaguars and Brian Thomas Jr. I was not a huge fan of this one, if I remember correctly, later in the draft. Like I said, if they did not sign Gabe Davis to a contract that I'm really not super happy about for the Jags, I would love this pick. But I feel like you've invested in your wide receivers pretty heavily. You have Christian Kirk, you have Zay Jones, you have Gabe Davis, you have Devin Duvernay. Do you really need a fifth guy, especially when you have Evan Graham, really one of the better tight ends out there? And it's not like you don't have them signed for a couple of years, right? It's not like Keenan Allen situation when it's much more of a 1-year rental and then we need you. I mean, Brian Thomas, like, I don't think he's a reach. I think he's a great pick. I just feel like you had much more diring need, whether it's drafting a corner, because you have Ronald Darby, who still like played very solid last year, but you do expect him to repeat that. Maybe just draft to solidify absolute stat of a defensive line. Imagine if you okay, this maybe not Chazar Newton. I think he's still on the board at this point. And I mean that D-line with Devon Hamilton, Roy Robertson Harris, Eric Armstead, Trevon Walker, and Josh Allen. That looks nasty. So I get that it's still like putting strong on strong, but not necessarily that your biggest strength is inside. It's much more of a nice side with Walker, Allen, and essentially Armstead being kind of on the edge. You could have invested in O-line, though it's quite deep. So I don't hate it because it's not a reach. He will have a role in the offense. It's not like there is a better guy that can do what he does. They don't necessarily have a prototype like he is. So he has a role in the offense from day one. I just would like it much more if they didn't sign Gabe Davis and invested money elsewhere, because here it feels like you've already made your investments and you are making another one with really premium pick. Not what I would do, but as I was thinking through this one, I essentially became much more intact with this pick. I will give it A-, and it's actually much closer to A. And I feel like I kind of overacted with a draft night. I really thought this through much more, and I would not pick this guy. I would go with Terrion Arnold or Chazar Newton. I think there are better needs, bigger needs, essentially in a way kind of similar graded prospects. I don't feel like either of them is on anyone's board like really behind Brian Thomas. So I feel like bigger needs, better prospects. But I get it. I have much less of a problem with this pick than I had during draft night. So let's move to the next pick. That's Terrion Arnold to the Detroit. I really like that they traded up for him. They picked there is two things about this one. They sacrificed a third round to get this guy. And I like that they went and got really premium for what they need. But I'm just, given how many corners were still on the board, and it's still like Cooper DeJean, we are entering round 2, and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Cooper DeJean are both still on the board. So I kind of question the necessity to actually, go out there and take this guy. But if you feel like he is the guy that completes our secondary, he was a college teammate with Brian Branch, so you are kind of putting them together. I have zero problem with this. So to me, it's an A. Kind of struggle if the price is right, because I would still feel like you could have waited and maybe he was not on the board at that point, but you would still have really similarly graded prospects for cornerback position. But for whatever, I really trust these guys, and going up to ensure that you get a guy that you know you need, for a position that you absolutely need, for a guy that's really kind of fell through the draft later than he should, I absolutely get it. The second part of this trade is much more worrying to me in terms of Dallas, but we will get to that when we talk Dallas. Then Jordan Morgan for Packers. Again, pick that I would have not necessarily made. I feel like there were better tackles on the board. I feel like this was yet another team that I was like, yeah, how about my guy, Graham Barton? Why are you not picking him? Because you've lost John Runyon. It's not like Ross Newman and Josh Myers are certified stats in terms of inside of an O-line. So I would pick Graham Barton over Jordan Morgan. I feel like Zach Tom, Rashid Walker are actually better tackles than what you have inside overall. So really, need is better. And I also feel like I don't really feel like Jordan Morgan was the best available tackle on the board at that point of time. But you've lost David Bakhtiari. You really want to think about protecting Jordan Love. B to B minus. Bit of a reach, but B to B minus in my eyes. Then Graham Barton for Tampa. I cannot say anything than A plus because I feel like he should have been off the board for quite some time. He absolutely fills what they need with Ryan Jensen being unable to continue his career. They really don't have much guys inside, and he just gives them everything kind of they need. He can pretty much play all three positions, whether it's left guard, center, or right guard. Immediately he's going to be started, and I would not be surprised if he is their second best offensive lineman behind Justin Verse, like from day one. So in my eyes, a steal, A plus pick, absolutely fills a need with a player that in my eyes should have been drafted earlier. Darius Robinson to Arizona. Reach? Yes. I feel like this is definitely a reach. And given how the rest of the board actually plays up, first of all, I do understand why they feel like, yeah, let's draft an edge guy because cornerback, one of the premium still, will most likely still be on the board for us when we select with third or fourth pick in the second round, right? There's most likely going to be the guy should still be up there for us. Unlike with Darius Robinson, there is really a big chance that he, as probably like the best edge guy at that point, still on the board, he would be gone. But he, to me, is second round prospect, not the first round, though we are getting closer. So it's a bit of a reach for me. And I feel like if you felt this way about how the draft is essentially going to get played, I would still believe that there was a huge chance for you to trade down with the Chiefs, where I feel like Darius Robinson could still be on the board for the second pick. I would feel like that's still a good chance, and if he's not, I don't think you are that much crying about him. I do understand that trading down for them when they have plethora of picks and when they feel like, yeah, this is our guy, they don't want to do it. But at this point, feels like a reach. Don't necessarily, in my ass, absolutely meshes with the system the best. And I do understand the thought process because I really feel like you will address the cornerback room with your next pick and guys should still be up there for you. But I can't get that much behind this pick. I'm gonna give it B minus. Xavier Worthy for the Chiefs, a guy you traded up to get, and is Xavier Worthy a first round player? Not at my board. But you are essentially getting the quickest guy, maybe in the playoffs, maybe it's still going to be Tyreek Hill. You are giving Mahomes and Andy Reid weapon that kind of they work with similar guy, obviously. Tyreek Hill is on absolutely different level, but Xavier Worthy could be that guy. And who am I to question if they say this is the best guy for what we want to do in terms of wide receiver? Who am I to question Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes? So that to me, like, if I just took a blind eyes, I would give this one a B because of Pat Mahomes, because of Andy Reid, and then I add a bonus of actually trading with the Bills for this one. If Bills will somehow not only trade it with you to give you Pat Mahomes, and then trade it with you to give him an ultimate weapon, like just for the memes, just for like paying, just for the Buffalo Bills. I have nothing against Buffalo guys. Like, it's just for the stories, for the pain. This feels like the right pick. So A+ for them because I really trust them. B in terms of how I would view this pick much more rationally. Then Dallas actually falling here with the trade down with the Detroit and picking Tyler Guyton. I do understand that you got a third round, but Graham Barton was much better fit in my eye, better player than Tyler Guyton for you. And for that, is the third round that you got an extra in this, is it worth to actually get a worse player? I'm not that certain. Especially when Dallas should be all in as they are on this season, but they obviously are not. But I would prefer to have Graham Barton over Tyler Guyton any day of the week. When you put a third round into this, it kind of meshes things up and makes this grade a bit worse or a bit more difficult. Was there another offensive lineman that you could have picked instead of Tyler Guyton? I do not think so. So you were pretty much maybe Jackson Powers-Johnson, but it feels like consensus on him is he's much more of a middle of the second round than like late first round player, so he would feel like a reach. And you wanted to solidify that O-line, right? When losing Tyler Biadasz, when losing Tyron Smith. But if that's the case, why do you risk that you won't be able to, or you will be able to, but with not the best player? You could have had Graham Barton, and you just chose to, solidify and get the second best or third best option. And for that, the third round might just not cut it, in my view. So, in a sense, I would give this pick B-. I understand the need. I feel like it's a bit of a reach. And when you give in the perspective that you could have had better player, that's where the minuses come from. And I'm not counting in this the actual fact that you have plus third round, because that to me would make from this selection a B+. So this is just ranking, drafting Tyler Guyton instead of what you could have had without that trade down. What you are actually doing with this pick, I will give this B-. We are heading to an end, and the next one is Nate Wiggins for the Ravens. I predicted this one with like not necessarily Wiggins, but that they would draft the corner. And I feel like I at the end of the day, I set myself the eyes on Nate Wiggins. It just makes sense, man. Like you absolutely know what you want to do. You want to run the damn ball. You want to allow Lamar Jackson to play make, and you want to have an exceptional defense. And this guy just solidifies your secondary and as one of the best, potentially by like the end of the year, the best secondary in the league. I think like they have this type of upside. Though, like I said with the Ravens episode, I will be watching their defense without Mike McDonald, especially Kyle Hamilton, if he can be as productive without the great leadership of Mike. You have not addressed your biggest need, which in my eyes is for sure the O-line. Though they, again, one position that I absolutely trust them with is the offensive line. So, all right. I like this pick. I think it's an A. And like, could this be an A plus? Because I just don't feel like you could have done any better. I will stick with an A. I do not necessarily say that, drafting a wide receiver would have been a bad option, because it just feels like you have, say, Flowers, maybe Rashad Bateman. You obviously trust your tight ends. That's good, but I would still say that another piece would be worth in terms of offensive linemen. Should you have been guys that trading up for like 24th pick and trying to go for Graham Barton? Maybe, because definitely guards are a problem. But I cannot hate for you actually completing the secondary with absolute startable player who is by no means a reach. If anything, he is more of a steal than reach in terms of where he should have been drafted. Then we go to San Francisco and Ricky Pearsall. Not a huge fan of this one. I'm not sure what this signals for the future of Brandon Ayuk. I don't feel like you need another playmaker unless you are getting rid of an Ayuk. And if you were getting rid of him, I think now it's kind of late, because I would say that you would hope for at least first rounder, like even late first round for Brandon Ayuk. Not necessarily like second, because of Brandon Ayuk is like borderline top 10 wide receiver in the league, and getting a second for him would be really weird. So I'm not a huge fan of this one. Problem is like who you draft instead, because secondary is kind of good. I was really like this in my eyes. This should have been Cooper DeJean, because then I'm not mandatory to bring Lenoir and Ward back for next season. I have really great secondary, at least for this one, and I have options for next year in terms of if I want to go cheaper. Maybe I just don't bring Charvarius Ward back. Maybe even I can think about trading him. So maybe, obviously right now not, after he does not have a contract. This just doesn't feel right. I mean, okay, John Jennings doesn't have contract for next year. The same for Ayuk. So it's successor plan one way or the other. I feel like for cornerbacks it would be more needed and more in the area that you don't actually have another playmakers for that secondary, because you have George Kittle, you have CMC, right? You don't necessarily have that for secondary. Like, yeah, fun guys, fun, nice, but you need cornerbacks. You don't get that production from, like there's not going to be edge guy that's going to help with this, like tight ends can help with production for wide receivers. So not my favorite one. I will give this one a B-. But to be honest, I'm not surprised that San Fran is actually not making a pick that I would do. They kind of have these tendencies over several years, and I must say, with their first round picks, their success rate is pretty dreadful, or with their premium picks, where I will definitely give them a benefit of the doubt. It's going to be like 5th round And going further, because George Kittle, Hufanga, Burke Purdy, there is plethora of guys that they have just found late in the draft. But with this one, in my eyes, B-, not necessarily a huge fan of this one. And the last one is actually going to be Panthers trading up one spot for Xavier Legette. Like one, would Bills pick Legette over you if they are willing to trade that pick to you? Not sure. But what you are getting by actually picking him 32nd is you get the 50th option. Like, he is the last guy that will have that. So that by itself, if you believe he is the guy for the future, could be actually worthwhile the trade up. And I was not necessarily mocking wide receiver for the Panthers, because I believe in Mingo and Marshall, you kind of have these two young options that you hope still can develop, and in Adam Thielen and Deontay Johnson, you have the veterans to help them and to give some nice floor for Bryce Young. But at the end of the day, why the hell not? Like, Terrence Marshall probably is not going to be the guy. Jonathan Mingo did not do great year one, so you are not super high on your draft, on your kind of rookie deals, wide receivers. Adam Thielen later in the year was really slowing down, so you are not certain about him. Give Bryce Young as much a weapon as you can. I have no problem with that approach. It's not a reach in my opinion. He is really like borderline late first, early second round type of player. So a grade, don't necessarily A plus, because I don't think he's a steal. I don't feel like he necessarily is your biggest need. I would think about cornerback still here. I would still pick Cooper DeJean over Xavier Legette. And I know that we talked a lot about we need to know what we have in Bryce Young. And for that case, I understand this much more. But I feel like we've addressed, or Carolina have addressed this pretty decently. There will still be a spot to draft a wide receiver. And I just feel like Cooper DeJean is a better player on my board. And he would fill a position of need that you definitely have. I mean, J.C. Horn cannot stay healthy. Dan Jackson is kind of okay-ish starter. Troy Hill, yeah, I definitely feel like cornerback room would be a spot that it's slightly more debatable for you. Obviously, it all hangs on the health of J.C. Horn, and I don't trust J.C. Horn health in long run, so that's where it pushes me towards picking Cooper DeJean. But Xavier Legette, a pick, no problem with that. So I said I tried to squeeze this one out. From 4 hours you have 1 hour 15. It was just really interesting first round. I absolutely enjoyed streaming it. I absolutely enjoyed watching it. I still have my head really around for Michael Penix. I am super happy for my Seahawks to get Byron Murphy, one of the best picks of the night. I feel like there are clear winners. It's Chicago Bears. It's Philadelphia Eagles. It's in a way Pittsburgh Steelers. It's for sure Minnesota Vikings. And in my eyes, there are clear losers. It's Titans. It's it's obviously Atlanta. And I think in a way I would go with Miami, because really Joe Robinson, not my type of guy. Is Dallas a loser? I feel like it's all going to depend on if that third round is actually going to be a good pick. Because now in a way, to me, they sacrificed a bit of quality in terms of O-line. Thank you everyone for listening. This was my take on first round draft. Not sure if I will be streaming second round. I will definitely be there to probably not go pick by pick, but maybe just think about some of the most interesting picks for day 2 and for day 2, so second and third round. And you can be certain that in Road to Super Bowl Season 2, we will address the draft, how it incorporates to what teams do right now. Thank you everyone for listening. If you like this one, leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. And up to next time, have a nice day. Bye bye.